Welcome everyone today to Mother's Monday. We're so happy you could join us today to celebrate this important discussion with our very special guest, Senator Tammy Duckworth. I'm your host. I'm Allison Robinson, founder and CEO of the Mom Project. I founded this company just over 5 years ago after having my son and while on maternity leave, discovering that over 40% of American women leave the workforce after having children. I felt that there must be a better way to unlock this incredible strength of women in our economy. And so started the Mom Project to do just that. So it is my absolute delight to have Senator Duckworth with us here today. We've coined the term Mother's Monday here at the Mom Project. We hope many of you had a chance to relax and celebrate yesterday. We look at Mother's Monday as an opportunity to take bold action to advance the agenda of moms in the workplace. We know what a tough year 2020 was for women and mothers in particular. Mothers were left tending to their families, their careers, their households. And in spite of that, 2.2 million women, particularly mothers, were forced out of the workforce as a result of pandemic-related layoffs, the unraveling of our already fragile childcare infrastructure, and school closures and the shift to remote learning. At the Mom Project, we believe now is the time to reimagine the workplace for women. We want to inspire bold action and make mothers at the forefront of the rebuilding of our economy. And we believe it's incumbent on all of us to help get those 2.2 million women back into the workforce. So as we think about leaders who inspire us to take bold action, we truly could not think of a better leader who does that than Senator Duckworth. Senator Duckworth, thank you so much for being here today. You have the most impressive bio. As many of you know, Senator Duckworth is an Iraq War veteran. She's a Purple Heart recipient and former Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, who was among the first handful of Army women to fly combat missions during the Operation Iraqi Freedom. Senator Duckworth served in the Reserve Forces for 23 years before retiring at the rank of Lieutenant Colonel in 2014. She was elected to the U.S. Senate in 2016 after representing Illinois' 8th Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives for 2 terms. On top of all of that, Senator Duckworth is a proud mom of 2 beautiful daughters, Abigail and Miley, and just recently released her memoir, Every Day is a Gift. Senator Duckworth, thank you so much for your service, and thank you for being here with us today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be on. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, I like to start at the beginning, Senator Duckworth. Would you tell us a little bit about your upbringing, your story, and really how that shaped who you are today as a mother and a leader?
It very much shaped who I am, especially as a public servant today. I grew up, my dad's American. I grew up, I'm born an American, but overseas. My dad, I was a bit of what we call a military brat, an army brat, but my dad actually worked for the United Nations. So I followed him all over Southeast Asia as he was bringing aid to refugees right after the Vietnam War. And then my family fell on some hard times. I actually cover all of this in my book, so I'm not going to go into detail, but basically my family fell on some hard times, and thank goodness there were safety net programs that helped me. We were on food stamps, there was a public school I could go to, and all of those experiences with struggle, watching my mom work so hard to try to put food on the table, made me really appreciate, the things that government should and can do for people. It's why I support hunger programs. I support public schools. I've introduced legislation to help with diaper insecurity. You hear about food insecurity, but you don't hear about diaper insecurity. So many women can't even go to work because they can't afford the diapers that they would have to leave at the daycare center in order to have their child enrolled in daycare. So all of that affects how I do my job today.
That's incredible. That's a cause that's near and dear to me. I actually used to work on the Pampers brand before I became an entrepreneur, and they were about $0.25 a diaper when I left. So it's a sizable expenditure. Senator Duckworth, you blazed many trails for women and citizens throughout your career. The first Army woman to fly combat missions, the first sitting senator to give birth while in office. I have so vividly that image of you on the Senate floor with your daughter. You've established the first environmental justice caucus and the first veterans crisis hotline, which is absolutely incredible, just to name a few. How have your experiences being the first or the only at a table in a room influenced your approach to leadership and policy making?
Yeah, I wasn't trying to be the first of anything. I was just trying to live my life and do my job. And I was not the first Army woman to fly combat missions. There was a handful of us. We were all there at the same time in that first 18 months of the war. So there were other women there, some even before me.
Yeah.
And I sat on their shoulders. I was just trying to do my job, but you're right. Most of the time I was the only woman or one of just a handful of women among a predominantly male dominated field, whether it was in the Army or in Congress. And I just had to learn to speak up for myself. That was one of the great things about being in the Army, especially as an Army leader. It really, they really train you to speak and stand up for what you believe is right. And that, I think, gave me a real solid foundation upon which I launched the rest of my career in public service. Because, if I could stand up and brief a general who would then question, my input to a mission and for mission planning, then I certainly can stand up to, opponents across the aisle here in the Senate.
That's incredible. Well said, Senator. We want to highlight a quote from your memoir that was very poignant. You said, "When the only obstacle is effort, then there is no obstacle, because I will move heaven and earth to get what I want, even if I have to do it one pebble at a time." This is a powerful quote. I think one that many of us mothers, caregivers can relate to. Would love to understand specifically how motherhood has really shaped you as a leader, Senator.
Yeah, so that quote, it's funny. My young folks talk about what's your, if you had a superpower, what would it be? Invisibility, the ability to read minds, teleportation, running really fast, fly, like Supergirl,
Yeah.
And I had always said that my superpower was just learning to work hard and breaking giant tasks down into small bits. And I think most moms understand that, right? You're trying to do your job and be your kid's teacher while they're doing distance education and make sure the laundry gets done and they get fed. And then you're still going to have to, after all that is done, go and do your projects because you're telecommuting from work. And so, that experience really, I think, helps me to better write legislation here in the Senate, because when COVID happened and moms were struggling trying to be the ones that have to homeschool and do all of that, and studies were coming out that women were doing, moms in particular, were doing 18% more work than pre-COVID times. And people were saying, "But you're home all the time. What do you mean you're doing more work?" People didn't understand it. I did, because I was doing that. I was trying to be my daughter's kindergarten teacher, and I failed miserably. I mean, many days there were lots of tears at the kitchen table trying to do the assignment, and those are just my tears, let alone hers. And so I just think it makes me much more empathetic and able to write legislation and talk to my colleagues who may, most of my colleagues have adult children. They don't have younger children. And so being able to remind them of what that was like is something that I think I'm uniquely positioned to do, because I am a mom of young children right now.
As a mother, I just want to give you a hug, Senator. I mean, just having somebody that's writing policy that knows what we're going through is just so incredibly inspiring. And as we see more women in office, in leadership, I hope that this becomes more of the norm.
Yeah, I mean, I literally yesterday was trying to get ready to give a floor speech when another mom from our mom group was texting me saying, "Your daughter didn't show up at the playground for the play date with my son. Where is she?" And I'm, have to hunt down my husband and say, "Why haven't you taken her?"
Yeah.
And I'm literally doing that from the Senate floor. So,
I mean,
but this is what moms are going through, right? All over the country.
And I love how that's such a big piece of your public identity. I think of the work that we're doing at the Mom Project and really being able to bring that part of yourself forward, which for decades, I think women have felt like that was something that they had to put on the shelf. and
Mhm.
then be a professional is a very different identity. And it's just so liberating to see that we can bring that peace, whether we're on the Senate floor or building companies in Chicago. The societal shift is palpable.
And you don't have to be perfect. That's the other myth. The work-life balance, and and more than once I put my kid, uh, 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 to bed wearing the clothes she's going to wear to school the next day because I know I'm going to be cutting it close the next morning, right? So you're going to wear leggings and this really soft t-shirt to bed, honey, because that's what you're going to go to school in the morning. And I'm just going to throw shoes and socks on you. But hey, my kid met the school bus on time and she wasn't late to school. But we have to be honest with each other about that, because until we are, then society is allowed to deny that the struggle exists, and society won't understand why it's so important to pass legislation that have to do with childcare, right? We should make childcare accessible. We should have universal pre-K. We should be helping families be able to take leave to take care of their loved ones. But if we hide the burdens of being a parent who works outside the home and pretend that everything is perfect because we're trying to give this image, that doesn't help us in the long run.
It really doesn't. When people ask me the keys to making it work, grace, right? Like some days you'll feel like a great mother, some days you'll feel like a great employee, but you just have to give yourself that grace to know that you're doing the best you can. Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you brought up public policy. I was hoping to take the conversation in that direction. Senator, you recently worked with Senator Amy Klobuchar, among others, to introduce the Marshall Plan for moms, which, as you can imagine, we're very excited about at the Mom Project, and we applaud this effort deeply, as the plan calls for robust paid leave plan, childcare infrastructure investment, because it is infrastructure, increased investment in our education systems, increased childcare benefits, and childcare tax credits, just to highlight a few. Tell us, why was it so important for you to introduce this plan to the Senate?
Well, it's long overdue, and it is something that, as a Democrat, we've been promising for a long time, and we need to deliver now that Democrats have control. We need to deliver this for working families, and frankly, our economy needs it. Even if you didn't want to be all warm and fuzzy and care about motherhood and apple pie, if you would just want to be cold-blooded and talk about profits and benefits to the nation, this is good for the nation. This is going to make our workers more productive if we help them take care of their personal lives, so that we can reverse this terrible trend from 2020 where all of these women had to drop out of the workforce. That cost us, every one of us, money. That the loss of productivity cost every one of us money, and it comes through in the higher cost of everyday goods or services that you're purchasing, because those businesses suffered those losses when those working moms had to stay home and not be able to return to work. And so, it's just common sense. I mean, no family should pay more than 2/3 of their income for childcare. We should have unemployment insurance programs. We should invest. We should think of childcare infrastructure as being just as important as bridges and roads and airports. I mean, my goodness, our childcare providers take care of the most precious things in our lives, but we provide them with the smallest amount of pay and benefits. That's crazy. If your child is the most precious thing in your life, then we should make sure that we, honor those workers and pay them a living wage, and so that they can really take care of our kids the way they want to and the way we want them to.
Absolutely, Senator. Many people don't realize that the maternal labor participation rate has really stagnated over the last 30 years. And I see these infrastructure investments, such as universal preschool in DC, when they launched it, I believe they saw a 12-point uptick in female labor participation. So the GDP growth kind of waiting to be unlocked once we can get these women into work, stimulating the economy, cannot be understated. So I'm curious for you, of this really robust plan, what is the piece of policy that you're most excited about, that you most believe will move the needle, Senator?
Oh, I mean, I there's so many things. The paid leave plan is critical. We need that universal paid family leave, and frankly, we're the only developed nation in the world to not have it. We also need to, stabilize and rebuild the childcare industry. I think that is critical to unleashing the productivity of working parents. And then the other thing that really so excited about, and you're going to hear the president talk about it tonight, is universal pre-K. And this is not just about the well-being of families today. It's about the productivity of our nation in the future. Studies have shown that how well a child does with literacy in the 4th grade is dependent on whether or not they attended pre-K. There's a cause and effect. It's with between if they attended pre-K or Head Start, then they are have much higher test scores with literacy in the 4th grade. And then studies have also shown that high school graduation rates and rates of entering college are directly correlated to literacy rates in the 4th grade.
Wow.
So if we don't make this investment, we are robbing ourselves of workers for the future. I want all of these kids to graduate high school and go to college so that they can be the most productive, innovative workers in 18 to 25 years. But we have to make that investment now. So I'm very excited with universal pre-K, the possibility for universal pre-K.
That's incredible. Senator, for those at home who maybe recently left the workforce during the pandemic or thinking about getting back and in a moment of despair and looking for that relief to come, when do you think we might actually start to see some of these policies take form?
We are working on them right now. This is a priority for us this year. Hopefully we get this through the House and the Senate. And as soon as we do that, our goal is to get it done within the 117th Congress, which is this year and next year. So before the end of next year, we got to pass this legislation out of the Senate, and the House is working in tandem with us. And then as soon as we get this law passed and appropriated, we can start seeing some of these benefits take effect right away. Certainly the tax credits, some of those things can happen right away. And we've already done some of that with the American Rescue Plan. The child care portion of American Rescue Plan was $15 billion in that for child care subsidies for families, the tax credit, all of these things we just basically need to make permanent, and they were in the rescue plan already. So you should have seen the benefits from them. But we're hoping to make this a permanent part of what we do as a nation.
Amazing. And we hope to celebrate when we reach those major milestones. We hope you'll come back and celebrate with us, Senator. We have a lot of employers on the line who uniquely have the ability to influence policy within their organizations to impact thousands and thousands of families. For them who are working to change the status quo and maybe facing roadblocks, skepticism, which I'm sure that you've encountered as well, what advice would you have to those leaders trying to be change agents, Senator?
Yeah, I think it's reaching out and talking to your peers and other employers about some of the options for these policies that are happening right now. American employers are uniquely burdened compared to European employers, for example, and other developed nations employers because American employers are responsible for example, the health insurance of their employees. Whereas if you had, a universal health care, as in many other countries, or even just a public option on the exchange here in the US, even under our current system, there was a public option on the exchange, then employers would not have to spend so much money and be burdened with providing for the health care of their employees. Same with childcare and family leave. The bill that I'm supporting for paid family leave, for example, is one that I think employers will support. We've talked to many and they say, hey, I like this idea. And it's just an insurance program. It basically says that for about $1.50 a week, maybe $2 at most, for a contribution from the employee matched by the employer. So the employer would be spending, at most $2 a week. You get up to 80% of your paycheck for 12 weeks to take care of a loved one. When you talk to employers and say, hey, would you be willing to spend a little over $100 a year to make sure your employee has paid family leave? Most employers said, heck yeah, that's a lot cheaper than I thought it was going to be. So a lot of these proposals are not burdensome. In fact, they lift the burden off the shoulders of employers. And we have to just make sure that employers will understand that, communicate the options to their peers without and not let people fall for sort of the very heated rhetoric that tends to happen when you have political debate. Just look at the reality and the facts.
That's great. That's great advice. And I love the plan that you're mentioning. And I love that it spans beyond birthing a child, but we know so many people have aging parents, sick and loved ones who need our help. So I love how holistic that caregiving policy is.
Yeah, I mean, you want your employees to be able to take care of their loved ones because you want them to come back to work.
Exactly.
Right? And you've already spent all this money training them. They have all this institutional knowledge, and you want them to feel that they can go and take care of their loved ones so that they can come back. I mean, I have 16 weeks paid family leave in my office. Every Senate office is different. You can set your own. And I had mine sitting at 12 weeks when I was talking with my chief of staff. I said, we've always said ideally it's 16. So we have universal, a paid family leave for my staff at the 16 weeks. And let me tell you, my retention rates are through the roof because people want to work in my office because they know that we're going to take care of them.
It's amazing. And it should not be a privilege to get to spend time with your family. Right. So that thought that this is going to become a reality is just so exciting, Senator. What about those who might not be in a position of power and influence? What advice do you have for people looking to advocate for change on a smaller scale?
Well, I think you can advocate at that smaller scale. I tell people to run for office all the time. I mean, you don't have to run for office yourself. You can certainly help someone run for office or just spread the word on social media, just a few clicks on your phone app. There's a lot that you can do to help spread the good information. You can forward information on this Marshall Plan for families, right? That we're putting forward to make sure that people know that we have the Marshall Plan for moms, and then here's what's in it. And please call your members of Congress and tell them that they should support it. That's an easy thing to do. If you want to run for office, I say you don't have to run for the Senate or the House. You can run for your library board of trustees. Mm-hmm. Did you know that those who want to target the education of our kids are actually targeting library boards of trustees? The Koch brothers are a good example because that's who decides which books are banned from your local public library. Interesting. So if you want Judy Blume's books to stay in your, for example, public library for your daughters who are, maybe preteens, actually running for the local board of trustees is far more powerful for that decision than running for the United States Senate.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And are you feeling more women running? Like, are you feeling that energy? Certainly there were so many recent appointments.
I am, and I'm encouraging them to run. And I actually tell women, if you want to run, and especially, and veterans as well. Also, I say, if you want to run, come talk to me. I will put you in touch with the right person to help you run for office, the right organization. You don't even have to be a Democrat. If you're a woman or if you are a veteran and you want to run as a Republican or as an independent, let me know. I'll help you get into office because we need more diversity here, and greater diversity on both sides of the aisle is good for the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Senator, we've all learned a lot about ourselves and fellow citizens in the last year. What's currently inspiring you as a leader, as a mother, as an American citizen?
I think, the work that we're doing, I'm so excited that in President Biden's first 100 days, we've been able to achieve so much already. Getting the American Rescue Plan out the door was really critical. I was somewhat saddened that not a single Republican voted for it, but I'm really glad we got it out the door so that we got money to schools so kids can go back to in-person learning. We got money out to hospitals so that we can do more vaccinations. We got money out to individual families so that they can actually pay the back bills, that they owe money on, electricity, gas, all of that, their rent, mortgages. So I'm glad we got that out. I'm glad we got so many people vaccinated. The goal was 100 million in the first 100 days. We're now well over 200 million vaccinated. That's the path to be a normalcy returning. I want to take my daughters to amusement parks. I want to take them to the beach, but I'm really scared because they can't be vaccinated. They're 6 and 3. And so, maybe going, driving down to the beach isn't going to happen this year either because, I'm vaccinated, but they can't be. And I'm terrified that they might get sick. So I see a lot of hope. I think we're about to turn the corner, and that's exciting. But I'm really scared that, if people are not careful, we're going to slide back to where we were just 6 months ago.
Absolutely. So much progress being made. And Senator, I didn't realize your daughters were 6 and 3. I've got a 5-year-old going on 6 in July and a 3-year-old. So you and I are on the step there.
Yeah. I tell people I'm a new mom, not a young mom. I had them at 46 and 50, but they keep me young every single day.
What was that like, Senator?
It was joyous. I struggled with infertility for well over 10 years. I actually talk about it in my book at length because I wanted to be honest so that other moms like me, other professional women who maybe thought that they were past the chance of ever getting pregnant, realize that you can still start that family. It wasn't easy. Nothing worth it is easy, but I'm glad I did it. And they are just the joys of my life every single day.
It's amazing. And so many incredible paths to parenthood that this business has opened my eyes to. Thank you for sharing that with me. Finally, we'd love to wrap up today, Senator, by having you share a challenge for all of us that have gathered here today. How can each of us be doing more to support moms in the workplace?
I think that really reaching out to your local communities, and in particular your local legislators would be really helpful to support some of these policies. You can pick on one, you can just pick, like I said, the Marshall Plan for Moms. You can look that up and you can just forward that information to your local congressmen and your mayors and it doesn't take a lot, and just, send off a tweet, repeat it so that other people know. Just basically use your social networks to spread the word and pass the word that, hey, if we actually support this, this will happen. We'll get universal pre-K. And how great would that be? And this will be an investment in our kids. Really just more doing what moms do best, which is talking to one another and sharing what's good and helping each other avoid what's bad.
Yeah.
And, and basically being that community that helps to support all of our kids.
Amazing. Well, I think we can all agree the virality or word of mouth between our mom groups are very powerful. So challenge accepted. On behalf of all of the community that we have gathered here today, Senator Duckworth, this has been such an incredible honor and pleasure having you here, sharing your story with us, inspiring us to do more, to see those gains that we all know we need to see in female and maternal labor participation. And we can't wait to see what's ahead in the next 100 days. I feel confident you're going to help us get that paid family leave that we all so desperately need. And we're just so inspired by you and your leadership and what's to come. Thank you so much, Senator.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.